The Jitsu Master and the Squid.
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 There he is, coming off of a Fight of the Year performance. Damn.
Not too bad.
How's your hair?
Fucking flawless.
You look just like the guy from Warzone.
You know, for real, man. I really do, right?
Yeah, off the steroids.
Yeah, it's USADA.
That guy's jacked.
It's USADA, man.
Yeah. That's
That's like Bellator me. That's like Bellator me.
That's that's messed up.
What, 185 Bellator you?
Yeah, dude, I'm 185 right now.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a 205 Bellator. Wait, Dustin used to be a big dude, you know.
Yeah, for real.
Well, what was the biggest you've ever been?
Over 205 around there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty big.
Did you ever fight at that weight?
Nah, I fought at 170.
Okay. What? So when was that? When was that you were over 200 pounds?
Oh, when I was probably 17, 16, 17.
Man.
Wow.
Did you play football or anything back then?
Yeah, through like when I was real younger, I did. I played a little bit in high school, but I didn't finish going to high school.
Yeah. Yeah, I was telling a couple people that, man. I was like, so I was watching your fight, and the thing that stood out to me, and people say it all the time, and I don't know if it's only because, or if it's because the crowd's not there, and and you just focus on the fight more so than the energy in the room, but your fights are always like that. Like they're always a grind, you know. Like there's no time when someone's trying to break you that you're gonna fold. But I was trying to explain that to Leia and to some other people. I'm like, man, that's just kind of because of who Dustin is and what he's gone through. Like that dude has earned and DC said it too. You know, that kid has earned everything that he's gotten, man. That's kind of what I want to talk to you about today, because like everybody's seen you fight. Like we know what you bring when you bring to the cage, but why is it that you bring that to the cage? I believe it's because of the things you've been through, man. So like you said, you didn't graduate high school. Take us to that time in your life.
When I was in 9th grade, I had gotten into some trouble for I think it's called truancy, maybe, like when you just don't go to school.
Yeah.
So I would just like leave school or just not go, and I got in trouble for that, and then I got put on probation and failed the drug test on probation. And yeah, and then I got sent off to juvenile detention for 4 months. And then when I came out, I went to school a little bit in juvenile detention, but when I got out of juvenile detention, I just didn't even go back to high school. So I never even finished 9th grade, you know. I just started working right when I got out of juvenile detention. I just started working, and you know, then I started messing around with boxing. And then I found out some guys were doing MMA. This was around the time when like the Ultimate Fighter was real big, just getting good traction. You know, not PFL. What was it before?
IFL?
Yeah.
IFL. Yeah. IFL was real big. So MMA was kind of heating up at that time. And I found some guys in Louisiana training jiu-jitsu and training judo. And I actually ran into them at a boxing gym. And it kind of went from there. I started training and doing everything. And then I started taking amateur fights.
So you started with boxing, then. That's were you intent on being a pro boxer, or?
Yeah, I wanted to box.
How's it feel to be sponsored by Everlast with all that? That's like the brand.
It's incredible. I have a long-term deal with them. We just finalized another deal actually this week. And, you know, I'm going to be an Everlast athlete until I retire from fighting. It's long-term. It's a long-term deal. Yeah.
That's cool.
And it's you know, the greats wore Everlast. Everlast has been around forever, man. It's, you know, when you see an Everlast glove, you think of Muhammad Ali, you think of Mike Tyson, you think of the great
Leonard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got time because of that. So you just got that deal signed, and I mean, we're talking about a guy who dropped out of school and like fell in love with boxing. So like you made that your trade, right? It's one of those things where it kind of takes us back. Like you said this in another interview. Like you're like old school. You know what I mean? And that's really what that is because it's like how many stories do we hear about like in early American days of people like just starting work as at 14 13 14 years old, you know, just getting out into the real world and trying to make something of themselves and something for themselves. And that's
Right.
kind of like what you did, man. um how did being in that position, like how did that work ethic like come to fruition? Because like if you're dropping out of school, you're not going to. There's a reason why you're not going to school. It's not interesting to you. It doesn't entertain you.
Right.
It doesn't really stimulate you, right? So what stimulated you to drive to be the man that you are now?
I'm not sure, man. That's a good question. I just wanted more. I wanted more for me and my future family and my wife. Just wanted to have more. You know, I'm not sure, man. I knew I had something inside of me. I always knew I had something. That's why like when I would watch boxing matches, I'm like, what those guys are showing, they're bleeding and hurting and pushing through. I never even that's before I even proved it to myself. But I knew whatever those guys are displaying right now, I have that in me. I felt a connection with that. I was like, I have that. I have that perseverance. I have that will to push through tough times. I know I do. And I knew it before I even proved it to myself. And damn, I proved it a lot of times to myself at this point.
Improve it to everybody else too.
My man.
That's the
Yeah.
truth, man. And you're talking about like when I say an old school kind of guy and your story, you know, like some people have seen Fightville, a lot of people have seen it, but maybe not everybody. But then the other part of that is the old school aspect. You're talking about your future family, like your future family started in your high school days, right?
Right. Middle school.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about is Dustin's wife, Jolie, and yeah, you guys have been dating since middle school. What's it like to have found your person when you're like 14 years old?
It's awesome, man, because I got a good one. And a lot of these girls nowadays, man, you can't trust them, man. It's a crazy time we're living in, bro. I'm so happy I'm not out like looking for uh, a girlfriend or a companion at this time in the world, man. It's a lot of weird stuff going on, a lot of untrustworthy people, and a lot of uh, Instagram influencers.
You got a lot of baggage too. They've been around the block a little bit.
Yeah, man. I'm fortunate, dude. I really got a good one, and I'm happy.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I mean, from you know what's funny? The first time I met Jolie was at ACL, and was it South by Southwest? One of those two Austin festivals.
Oh yeah, it might have been South by Southwest.
Yeah, and that's when the debut of Fightville, and
Right.
like she's very not, I wouldn't say protective, not in a way that's like obnoxious, but she's very protective of you. I met her there. I feel like she wasn't feeling me then. She didn't know.
Ah, come on.
No, not like she was like I don't like him, but it's just like she was Larry. She wanted to make sure that I had your interest. Like I would not put bullshit before my interest or yours. I wouldn't compromise you. You know what I mean? I got
Yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of vibe off of her that she was just like, I just need to make sure that he's not gonna poison, what we're building here. Like
My
for
girl,
real.
she had my back, man. She has my back forever, bro.
Yeah, she was not standoffish, but she was kind, but at the same time she didn't know me yet, and I could
Yeah.
feel that about her. Um, Also, when you met Grisby, when you fought Grisby, that was a little bit later, and she was a little more open. And by the time you were down in Florida, like Jolie was like my friend, and then by the time Parker came along, I was Uncle Eve. So, like like
Right.
you have a good like when you say you got a good one, man. There's no denying that, and that's one thing I'm extremely happy for you for, man. Like the things you've done, you've built yourself the American dream. Like what they say the American dream is, like you've built that for yourself, and that's something like that's inspiring. I'm proud to, like I've told you, man. I'm proud to be able to call you a friend.
And I appreciate that, man. But like my wife, as much as me going in there and fighting these guys, like my wife has been such a as much important part of building this dream. She's holding her weight too, man. Like I don't think, I'm not trying to get mushy and stuff on a podcast, but I don't think I would have made it or put together the things that I've put together in terms of my lifestyle, business moves, my nonprofit, just day-to-day operations that we have going on now. I wouldn't have been able to do it all without her, for real. So she deserves a lot of credit for all of that.
Has she been to all of your fights?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, she drove me to my first fight like back in 2006 or 2007, but she's been to all the ones she could make, like the trying to think of one she missed. Beginning of my WEC
Canada.
days.
When we
What's
were in
that?
Canada, when we were in Canada and you fought Jason Young, she didn't come.
Nah, she didn't come. I wasn't making enough money to to fly her to Canada
True.
and stuff like that,
Did she
Yeah.
come to this quarantine fight?
Yeah, she came.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I went and meet her. She was at the Palms. I went and meet her after. Yeah, at the beginning, she pretty much been to all my fights. Definitely all my local fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like when I went to the WEC, we couldn't flying coaches and stuff. That was my whole damn purse right there. I couldn't afford to fly, because I had a full-time job as well at that time. So I was just trying to
What were you
balance.
doing? What kind of work?
I was working for a buildings distribution company. So we would go to job sites and deliver doors, windows, interior trim, stuff like that. We would drop off and pick up from different job sites. And I worked there for a while. And then I started working part-time when I was in the WC. I dropped my hours back. And because me and her had just bought a house. So, I had grown man bills early.
Yeah, that
Cool.
I tell people, like, I don't try to put all your business out there, and if I go in any direction that you don't want me to go, you can stop me before I get there. But like I tell people all the time when I talk about Dustin has worked for everything he has, like moving to Florida, if you're willing to tell that story, of the things you had to do to build your life in Florida between, leaving Louisiana, you were going up to Jersey and training with Edgar and what's up, Parker? Hi.
Look, Uncle Eve. Uncle Eve. You see him?
Oh,
Come on, Gracie.
So big.
I'm gonna move so I might go in my office so the sun's not. Hey, babe, stay right here so the sun's not in my eye. When I decided to go to Florida, my wife was in school. She was in college at the time, and she trusted in me to make it in fighting so much that she actually dropped out of school to move with me there. That's how much she trusted in my fighting, in me making it in fighting. She left school and came to Florida. But yeah, no, we packed up a U-Haul, moved everything, bro. Packed up a U-Haul. I had a house that we had just bought in Louisiana. Packed it all up, drove 15 hours to South Florida. Got a 1-bedroom apartment. Like just, made it happen. Right by the gym, made it happen.
Yeah, I remember that 1-bedroom apartment. That's where we used to play a lot of Call of Duty on the couch there.
Hell yeah. And dude, I forgot to, even like when I was fighting in the WC and I was still living in Louisiana, me and my wife shared a car. She had a car and I would ride a bike to work. I'd wake up super early, ride a bike to a local gym there, like fitness gym to lift weights, then go to work all day. Then she would pick me up and I would drop her back. We would use her car for me to go to the mixed martial arts gym at night. So like we've been having each other's back.
Yeah.
good story.
And then that's the bullet points. Those are the big details, man. Sometimes being there and seeing some of these things happen, you appreciate it a little bit more. What
Right.
if there were, let's just imagine there was a young kid that wanted to do this, and they were in a similar situation as you back then. They believe they have the heart to fight through adversity, and they want to be a combat athlete. Like, what would you say to them? Is there any advice that you feel that you learned over these years that you could put in words?
Ah, man, it's tough because I feel like even if they did and they had the work ethic and did everything I did, just life. So things happen in weird ways. Like, I don't know if, the breaks that I've had or the opportunities that I've had, maybe they would carve their own lane, but I would for sure uh, show up every day, man. Like, you have to put in the work, trust yourself, believe in yourself. And for me, throughout the process, learning that like a failure isn't the end. I've failed over and over and over again, and now I'm here, and I'm doing well, and I'm, so. There's a spider. All right, baby girl. Hey, Dad, let that talk. All right, and let that talk.
That's something that I can appreciate a whole lot. The statement you just made about you failed before,
Like, when I was young, I thought that like a failure, I would be, I was done. If I lost a fight, everybody's gonna look, stop believing in me, or, think I wasn't the guy who. It's just hard to put into words. I'm trying to,
I understand what you're saying, and there's definitely some truth to that. I'm sure that anytime you had a loss, there were some people who believed in you, that they jumped off the bandwagon,
Right, right.
You didn't. You know what I mean? You still driving your bandwagon, and you got back in the gym and you made improvements. I feel like I can name the improvements you made over the course of different fights in your career, and for me, from the outside looking in, and as a friend who knows you decently well, I feel like the biggest improvement, the biggest turn you made was after the loss to Cub Swanson. And that's only an opinion. I don't know if you feel the same way, but the reason I would say that is I don't remember who you fought before you fought Cub Swanson, but I was getting ready for a fight. I came down to Florida. We're having that conversation. I believe it was Mike Brown, Robbie. We were all standing between the mats and your brother. And then I go over and have another conversation. I come back to that conversation with Mike Brown, Robbie, and your brother. And I'm looking in your brother's face. I'm like, wait a minute. You're Dustin. Because after that fight, you would swollen up. You'd hit the pies and the cakes, and you like went to. It was about almost this much time between that fight and the time that I've seen you from your last fight last weekend, and you just kind of swole up.
I was probably in the 190s,
Yeah, after fighting at 145 a week before, 2 weeks before. But then you got that fight, that offer for Cub Swanson the next day, and I remember.
I remember they asked me my weight too, and they offered me to fight. I was like, I can do it, no problem. And I think I told them I was like 173 or something like that, but I was like 190.
And the next day you were talking to us, you were asking us about it, if you should do it, because like you were telling us what you weighed, and you were like, "Do you think I can do it?" You think, and I was like, "Do you think you can do it?" And you're like, "Yeah." And then you decided you were going to do it, and you did.
Yeah.
And you performed well until that weight cut hit you. I would definitely have seen that with a different Dustin. But I do think after that fight, there was some changes that you made. That was never a concern for you again. You never, like, look at you right now. You just had a fight of the year candidate, probably one of the best fights. That absolutely the best fight in my opinion during this quarantine. Probably one of the best fights that most people have ever seen. And like, you're ready for the next one. You're ready to get ready for the next one, right? You're not letting yourself get out of shape and get chubby.
Yeah. Right. Next week, I'm going to take my family for a little bit of downtime, but I'm going to try to be responsible. I'm going to eat a little bit, let my body relax and heal up. But even still, I don't do like I used to. Even when I'm really letting loose and hanging out and eating good, I still don't do like I used to. Because I know I have to bounce back. Like, I always have to bounce back. And the more I do, the more damage I do, the more damage I got to undo. So it just makes it easier,
Yeah.
What is next now that I know that UFC is kind of having guys fight pretty fast and often this year? Seems like they're booking guys pretty often. Is there anything? Are you waiting until the Khabib fight to see the winner, or are they presenting fights to you at the moment?
They haven't offered me anything. It's still kind of fresh. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not just going to take a fight though, just to stay busy. I wanted to meet at this point in my career, man. I still feel pretty young, 31 years old, but I've been in the organization 10 years. I've done a lot in the organization, and I want fights that are meaningful. You know,
So I'm
like I
looking
want big
for
fights.
Gaethje,
I don't want to fight I don't want to fight another up and comer. Not that I'm like over that stuff. It's just at this point in my career where I'm at mentally, and the fights that I've put on and the guys that I've beat, and just the way I've done everything, I feel like that's what I deserve.
Yeah, because looking at the rankings, what Tony Ferguson's above you, Gaethje's above you, and
Nah, Tony
Khabib.
Ferguson's below me now.
Oh, they moved you. Oh, wow, nice. They have been up.
What are the new rankings? I have not seen the new rankings.
They put me at number 2 now.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
Gaethje's number 1 right now?
So Gaethje's number 1, yeah.
So
Got it.
here's-
They moved you above Ferguson. Yep, and Connor's at 4.
So him and Khabib are fighting. I have a win over one of those guys, a loss over the other one. I fought everybody. I fought all the big dogs of the weight class, man.
Yeah, there's really only 2 fights. Well, 2
McGregor
fights
rematch.
the McGregor rematch and Tony Ferguson.
Right.
Yeah,
I
it.
think those are the only things they could put on the table and offer that should even be considered. And then
I'd go up to one. I'd still go up to 170 to slap Nate up too.
That was a fight I was going to ask for. Yeah, I was like, that makes for a great fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do that. But I don't know. We'll see what's going to happen. If the Tony fight comes together and we make everything work, then I'm down for that as well. Maybe at the end of the year. I don't know what's next.
Yeah.
But it's like one of the first times in my career where I'm like, well, it's whatever anyway. I used to try to put all the pieces together or count way ahead or what might happen, play scenarios in my head. I don't even, it's whatever.
I dig that. Now, a lot of people think Gaethje, because of his pedigree, because of his background, he probably has a good shot at being able to beat Khabib. Maybe he doesn't stop every takedown, but he stops enough to slow Khabib down and use the power in his hands and his kicks. Should he win that fight, like, do you think you are the number 1 guy to challenge right after that?
How could I not be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How could I not be? And
We're talking about Connor, but yeah, that makes no sense.
the guy hasn't won a fight in the weight at 155 pounds since he beat Eddie Alvarez, right?
Yep.
Right.
2017, I think.
I've been putting in work. I got a win over the guy. I'm the last guy to beat him. I'm the only guy in the organization with the win over him. If he pulls it off, I think that makes a lot of sense. Time will tell.
So here's a question that just came to mind for me for you. Let's give the hypothetical that Gaethje beats Khabib and Conor comes in demanding that he wants that fight, and they're even considering that right now. You run into Conor in an elevator, and what do you say to him about why that fight he doesn't deserve that fight, why you do, and if he doesn't, I'm sorry, and he should have to go through you to get that fight. What do you say to him to make him what do you just say to him in that situation, because you deserve it more so than he, in my opinion and a lot of people's opinion?
I mean, you know me. If I don't say anything to him, I talk to the UFC, the people who call the shots. I take myself out of those scenarios because I know if I open my mouth to somebody like that, we're gonna fight because I know what kind of person I am. It's gonna go there. So I just avoid it.
Elevator. Okay, so
And Eve, that's a tough scenario because just because the way that Khabib has had such a win streak, if Gaethje wins that fight and he fights Conor, like you gotta think Khabib gets a rematch at some point, right?
Yeah,
I
you think so?
It delays Dustin. With like these scenarios always delay that person on the outside when there's like 2 guys fighting and then someone gets the winner already, and then you have a guy like Dustin sitting there. That could be 12, 16 months the way Conor spreads fights out.
I mean, you guys are educated fans for sure. What do you think's next? What do you think my next move should be? Who should I fight next? Tony?
I love the idea of a Nate Diaz fight just from a fan perspective.
Yeah.
Or you versus Conor. I think you deserve that Conor fight.
Yeah.
I think if Conor steps back in the cage, there should be nobody else but you against him.
Right.
If Gaethje beats Khabib, I still believe that you and Conor should be the next fight, because more than likely, I believe Khabib deserves a rematch for the way he's held on to that belt.
Dude, then that's gonna hold it up even more.
Exactly.
I do.
That's the
It
issue.
will hold it up.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the problem. But I can see that being a route that it goes. But yeah, as a fight fan, the you and Nate fight is fun, but I honestly don't see that being any different from Jorge and Nate.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest. I love Nate Diaz. I think he's a great fighter. It's fun. I like the guy. I've trained with him before, but I've trained with you before. You know, I know what that looks like. I truly understand what that fight looks like, and
That's one that's an exciting fight to me because that's one I've always wanted, you know. But we'll see, man. I don't know what's gonna happen. But I like the options. The options are good.
So looking at the rankings right now, like Charles Oliveira, Paul Felder, Diego Ferreira, nothing exciting. Those don't make for if they offer you those fights.
You fought Ferreira your first lightweight bout, right?
Yeah.
He's still lingering around though.
Oh, dude, he's more than lingering. That dude's on a tear.
Yeah, he's on. He's not going to. He'll be ranked forever. Yeah,
that dude's on a tear.
So I have another question for you, DP, about this last fight with Dan Hooker. What Dan Hooker is my second favorite lightweight, right?
Yeah. Tough, man. Tough guy.
He's a tough guy. There's so many similarities between you and him from my perspective. Your attitude, your work ethic, the way
I'm way better looking.
The way you come back, the way both of you guys have come back from losses. You know, it's obvious that you guys go back to the drawing board, keep fine-tune the things that do work, and then refine things that cost you to suffer the loss. What is it like being in there against somebody that is emotionally, mentally, character-wise a mirror image of you?
You know, he definitely showed his toughness, his grit, kept walking forward when I was landing big shots. But just he's just not there yet. There's a level, and I felt like he just fell short of it. You know, I've been in there with everybody. Like I was saying, I've been in there with the best guys in the world. I've been in tough fights with the best guys in the world. And Dan is very tough and would beat a lot of guys, but there's just like something that you know, a fifth gear that he never shifted into in that fight. And I feel like that's what cost him the fight, because at the beginning, his rhythm, his timing, everything was really good. And I felt like every round I shifted into a different gear and he just started not being able to keep up.
What point did you realize you had that edge?
I kind of started feeling it in the second round, and then he fucked me up. So, and then he fucked me up at the end of the round. So third round, I pulled myself back together. Third round, fourth round, fifth round. I felt like the gap was getting further and further each round.
Have you rewatched the fight?
Yeah, I watched it as soon as I got back home.
What do you take from rewatching it?
That I'm so much better than that performance, man. Like, I'm not trying to show you guys how tough I am. I've got too many fights to try to do that. Trust me, that's the last thing I want to do. I know that already. I don't want to prove that. I know that. So I don't want to go there. I'm not trying to prove it to anyone. I don't want to put my body through that. I'm so much slicker than standing in front of him after landing shots and allowing him to hit me. You know, I took a lot more damage than I should have. But, you know, I had a long layoff, a long recovery, surgery, and a lot of stuff to overcome going into this fight. And I just think that my next fight, I'll be a little bit sharper. I just need to get back into the rhythm. And it took me a little while in that fight to find that groove.
What was it like fighting in front of nobody?
Fucking awesome.
You liked it, right? I feel like guys can stay like in the zone because like all the hoopla and the crowd can throw you off.
It was it's so intimate. It was one of my funnest fighting experiences ever, because it felt like if me and Dan were friends, and I texted him and said, hey, tomorrow at American Top Team, let's spar at 5. And it's just him showing up with his bag. You know, he might have a coach, and I have my boxing coach and Mike Brown in my corner standing on the side of the cage, and we just do a sparring session or something. That's what it really felt like. Even the walkout, everything, it just felt like, you know, because I've been fighting the UFC long enough. I know everybody. They're all familiar faces, you know? So I'm like nodding. Oh, what's up? What's up? Like, it just felt like a training session.
That's interesting.
So training session or high school fight, because you know what I mean. You don't have the skills in high school, but everybody that's around, you kind of have you know them to a degree, and it's so quiet. It's really intimate. It's kind of private, right?
Yeah, and the vibe in there too. Like everybody involved, like the referees, Heidi, Anik, Bisbing, you just know everybody, and you can feel it in the air that they know that that you're about to get into a scrap. Like everybody knows that this is about to be something crazy. You can feel it.
Yeah, that fight lived up to everything I expected, man. I'm glad now that I can go back to rooting for Dan Hooker. I told him to his face on this show here. Like the only time I'm going to root against you is against Poirier. But
I'm rooting for him as well, man. He if he said stuff in interviews leading up to the fight, that's what he was supposed to do. He never really disrespected or crossed the line or did anything like that. He just said he was going to knock me out and said things that he's supposed to say. Young fighters take notes, call your shots, talk the talk. He just came up short. He fought a good fight.
yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Where he's concerned, the similarities. You don't talk, but he's has that attitude where he just lost to Dustin Poirier. He just lost to one of the absolute best guys in the world. And now he's calling out another one. He wants to fight Tony Ferguson. He's asking for that. Not a lot
What
of
a
people.
maniac, because I know he's hurting. I know I'm hurting, so I know he's hurting. Dude, I don't want to call anybody out right now. I can barely wrestle with my daughter, dude. She jumps on me on the ground. I'm hurting right now. I just want to relax. What a maniac.
Parker's hardcore, man. I get that.
Unless maybe well, now I'm about to say maybe that was his first taste of like big fight, like top opponent. But he beat Felder, and he also fought Barbosa. But maybe something sparked in his mind and in that fight, like after that fight, that he went 5 rounds with a former interim world champion, a guy who's in the top 5, top 3, and held himself and won the first 2 rounds. He might be pulling the positives from that and saying, I want to get back in there with the best. I can beat these guys. I felt it just now. I can beat these guys. And that's what it's supposed to be. Because when I've dropped fights to guys, that's the learning lessons that you go back, that you can think about when you go home. When you go back to the gym, you're like, I felt it. That guy was a world champion, or that guy was an interim champion, or that, he's been in the top 5 his whole UFC career. I belong with those guys. So maybe something opened, maybe he realized something in that fight.
Who was that guy for you? Would that be the Connor fight, or would that be what fight did you feel that
A lot of them, from an early time, like going back to 2012 when I fought Korean Zombie. He was really hyped up. I went I think 3 or 4 rounds with him.
It was a 5-rounder, yeah.
Yeah, kind of proved to myself, oh wow, I lost the fight, but I showed myself I can compete with the best in the world. And I've done that a bunch of times, even the Swanson fight. I when I was a young fighter, I used to watch Cub. And then I was in there standing across the cage from him and going the distance with him. I'm like, wow, I belong in here with the best guys in the world. And once you start believing that and it starts growing and you start training like that, it's just a snowball effect. You get better and better and more confident. And now when I look myself in the mirror, I know that I'm a problem for any man standing across that octagon. I know that.
After that Cub fight, you guys went the distance on short notice. You didn't have your best performance. You had a tough cut.
I cut 30 pounds that week.
Yeah. See, what did you tell yourself after that fight that you would never feel again? Like I know, like the weight cut was hard. I know, but you made some adjustments. But there's something in that moment. There's something that, like, this feeling of I know that I belong here. I believe that you would feel that if I was 100%, I win this fight, right? So what did you take from that, and what changes, what feeling that you decided you weren't going to have ever again?
That was like one of the fights that on the business side, I decided that I'm never going to put myself, unless it's an opportunity that would change my life or something. I'm not going to put myself on the back. I'm not going to stack anything against myself from here on out of my career. Like, I'm not going to take a short notice if I'm not really prepared. I'm not going to do anyone favors. because when I go in there and lose a fight, they're not going to do me favors. You know, like I can't expect the UFC, like, yeah, I'll fight the co-main event. I'll take it on short notice. No problem. Their favor is giving me the opportunity to fight. You know, they don't owe me anything after I lose that fight. So I need to look out for myself. Number one, you know, that's the thing. Like there are times to take chances and times to take gambles. And that wasn't one of them. You know, I didn't need to take that fight. I just won. I was way overweight. And I forced myself into that fight just because a young guy, I wanted to fight this guy. I wanted to be co-main event. I wanted to stay busy, but I stacked some things against myself in that, you know, and now I have a loss on my record because of it. So you're not guaranteed to win them all, but you can put yourself in a good position to give it your best. And since then, every time I've stepped in the octagon, I've been prepared and I've been ready, win, lose, or draw.
Do you think you learned that lesson without taking that fight?
I would have made the mistake somewhere else and learned it another way, you know?
Yeah.
It's a lesson that has to be learned at some point in your career.
What would you say to a young guy who they take a loss and they don't necessarily self-reflect? They don't look at themselves and try to understand why.
You know, I take pride in never losing 2 fights in a row in my career. I have 43 fights. I've never lost 2 in a row. And coming into this fight was like heavy on my mind in training camp. Like, oh shit, here's an opportunity. You know, this guy's coming to be the best he's ever been. He's got the biggest opportunity in front of him to reach the top of the division, possibly be next in line, jump himself into title contention with a great performance. And I just lost the biggest fight of my life against Khabib. And, you know, I'd be lying if I didn't think of that. Wow, you know, I can't start now. I'm not losing 2 in a row. I thought of that. And, yeah, this is all about, man, every time I've lost, I've learned from it. You know, I'll learn, even when I win, I learn. But anytime I've lost, no matter how heartbreaking it was, when the smoke cleared and I had time to myself, I really am able to reflect and tighten up things. Because I have a good support system, my wife, I have a good team with Mike Brown and Daya, and all that's important. But like mentally, you have to digest all that stuff and make the changes. You know, something has to be done, even if it's like some of my losses, I think are just a lapse in concentration. Somewhere the sense of urgency just kind of faded, like in the Khabib fight. You know, I don't, you know, but that needs to be addressed. You know.
Yeah. That's gotta be tough, you know, especially looking at it and saying to yourself, I've never lost 2 fights back to back in my career, and I pride myself on that. And for a guy with your skills, early in your career on the smaller shows, that's almost not even a concern. But then when you make it to the UFC, it begins to become a concern. But now that you're in the upper echelon of the weight class, like that's a very real possibility. Because everybody you have to face is a killer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you keep that attitude? I mean, I understand, I don't want to lose 2 fights in a row, but like what do you do when you're in the gym and you don't want to lose another fight, and you're facing Dan Hooker, this up and coming kid who's running through everybody, and he's called you out, and he wants this, and he fully believes that he's going to beat you, and he has a skill set to do that if you're not 100%. So what do you do in the gym? Where are you making adjustments, or where are you making decisions that are going to ensure that you perform your best?
Dude, here's the secret to all of that, to longevity in the sport, is to stay a student. Like never walk in and act and think you know everything. You have to stay a student. You know, like I learned stuff from everybody, whether it's a guy who's 5-5 in his pro record, you know, pro career, and he's in the gym trying to show me something. I'm going to just listen, because everybody's mind and works in a different way. Maybe he's doing something a certain way, or explains something a certain way that I didn't think of it that way. Or I just like to listen. I learn a lot from. I'm just stay a student. I pick people's brains. I watch people train. I learn a lot. I'm a student of the game. I watch fights, every fight card. You know, I just really want to evolve, and I'm just a student. Like I said, I'm never a master. You know, I'm a student.
Yeah, that I can see that. And you've been that way since I've known you. You know, that was the reason you came to Austin. You were like, I want to work on my wrestling. You say you have a bunch of wrestlers that come through and help you. So can I come up and visit sometime? You
Right.
show up, and like legit, the very first day, I remember sparring in that place off of South Lamar. The very first time going with you,
I
like,
think that was Shallow Roos's house or something.
yeah,
Remember?
yeah, that's right.
Was
So
that where we sparred?
he did own a house down there that we worked at. That
I
was
think
like
he had a house, but
everywhere.
he busted all the walls out and just put mats.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was it. And
Yeah.
I remember moving around with you, and you throw in a combination. I was like, oh, this kid's good, and he hits hard. And I shot a shot, and I took you down. And I'm like, oh, that was easy. And
Nah,
then
I jumped the guillotine. That's what happened.
but like I felt like, okay, this is where I have an advantage. This is where I have a distinct advantage. So I'm gonna work on that. But
Yeah.
and then you started going to Florida, and you started wrestling, and it got to the point where even though I was training with Division I wrestlers, I was still going to Hofstra training.
Right. Yeah.
The next couple of times, every single time that we got together again, that gap closed until, you elevated your wrestling skill. Like, you became hard. Like, I couldn't take you down, but you took me down quite a few times after that. So that, and also you're still asking me questions. You're still asking me for information. You still, hey Dustin, I'm in Houston, man. I want you to meet my girl. We're gonna come to Lafayette. Hey, can you get here by 3? You coming? What time you leaving?
Yeah. True.
Can
Yeah.
you run practice? That kind of thing. That kind of attitude. I think that kind of displays itself when you perform, especially after coming off of a loss. Because if anybody understands fighting, they see the improvement. They see some type of adjustment, something you've learned. What's been the hardest thing for you to learn? The hardest habit for you to break? I have an opinion on it, but I just wonder what you think that is.
The hardest habit to break. Brawling, probably. Brawling.
That's kind of what I was going to say.
I just get sucked into it every fight. I don't know. It's just because I'm a maniac, dude. I know better. Trust me. In the fight, I'm throwing shots and getting hit with shots. I'm like, fuck, here we go again. I know better, but I just addicted to it.
It's fun, huh?
Yeah. It's in a scary way. I love it.
I think you made an adjustment there, though. I mean, yeah, like you said, and I think you're hard on yourself too. You said in this fight that there were some things that some shots you shouldn't have taken, some situations you shouldn't have willingly got into, but you're not getting in trouble because of that anymore. I feel like you got into trouble with that a little bit with Michael Johnson,
Yeah.
a little bit a little bit with Eddie and a lot with Michael Johnson,
Yeah.
but after the Michael Johnson thing, and Mike and a few other coaches trying to get that through to you, that happened similarly in the Eddie fight. It wasn't the same thing, but it was similar in the first Eddie fight.
Mhm.
But by the Gaethje fight, I think that you got to the point where you are now, where I would still get into a brawl, but you get into them smart. You still box. You box and brawl versus just straight brawling.
Yeah.
Cody
I feel
Garbrandt
that.
style, that Cody Garbrandt style.
I feel that.
Exactly. That's who I was thinking of when I thought about that. Cody Garbrandt. I think, like, if you could put that in his head, then we got 135-pound Dustin Poirier walking around the UFC too.
You have a champ right there if he doesn't have that trigger.
Yeah.
What you got for DP, Squid? What else you got?
What do I have for DP? Not a whole lot. It's been kind of fun. It was fun rewatching your fight. It was kind of the clear front runner for fight of the year. I think I'm sure you've heard that a million times this week.
Dude, I've had so many like in the mix every year. Every year I have a fight that's a candidate, but I'm gonna win one. One day I'm gonna get it one day.
This is the clear front runner. I'm like, you got the Josh Emmett, Shane Burgos one. You got Joanna and Weili Zhang, but they're just not as good. I was trying to rewatch them this week. I'm like, let me get a impartial view at this and kind of see what the fight of the year is. We're literally at the halfway point of the year, so that's like the winner of the first half. But we'll see. There's some good fights to be made. That Gaethje Khabib could turn into fight of the year. That could turn to something really
Yeah.
special.
We'll see.
You know, I'm sure there could definitely be another one, but I don't know if we're gonna have another fight where the attrition was so prolonged. There was so many opportunities in this fight for either guy to finish.
Yep.
You know, and for both guys to have come back and fought through so much. They're like in the second round, you fought through taking that knee, getting stunned there. The first round, you know, he was starting to take a lead. In the third round, you started to land the bigger shots, but you know, when you backed him up, it was just for him to clear his head. It was
Yeah.
never. But it looked like you had him in trouble, and he had to fight through a couple of those moments. There was a couple moments where he's tied up and he's looking to land the knee, and you're setting up, you land a big shot, you break the clinch, and then follow him up with a solid two-piece. You know, that looked like it could be the beginning of the end. And then he fights back through. I don't know if we're going to see another fight where there's so many times both guys had an opportunity to get a finish and absolutely refused to let it happen. That's have you seen Trinidad Vargas?
I have, but not in a long time.
That's my this fight. That was my boxing fight to
Yeah.
like everything to me. And this fight is the equivalent to that to me. If I was still fighting, this would be one of those fights that I watched before my fight to just feel like, yeah, I'm fucking unstoppable. Like,
That's awesome, man.
That's my word.
Yeah.
Love the Trinidad Vargas fight.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Puerto Rican killer right there.
Man, Dustin, who is from all the things that you've done in mixed martial arts, getting yourself to the point where you are, whose appreciation for what you've done have you felt the most? Like a Mike Tyson, or you know, like whose
Oh,
appreciation
yeah, that's a good question.
have you felt the most love from? There's a lot, huh?
Yeah.
Is there like a random celebrity that you slid into your DM that like loved your fight, like Will Smith or something like?
Megan Fox.
Oh
wow.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
She DM'd me before after a fight, but
Like Jackie Chan. Or, I don't know.
you know, Teddy Atlas talking about my fights and having a relationship with him through text and stuff like that is pretty cool, man. You know, he's a legend, and the way he puts things into words that fighters feel is something special. He has a good gift.
Yeah.
You got a chance to work with him before?
No, never.
I was just watching some videos of him this week. He got these videos on setting up traps that are just so good. They're on YouTube of just like setting up boxing traps, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
nobody
he's a
makes
legend.
videos like that. And then just a lot of guys show you a combination and something. They don't say when to use it, or like you throw this so the guy reacts like this, so you set him up with that trap. All his videos are kind of like that, that's what you want as a fighter. You want that little thing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fun.
DP, man, I know we took a bunch of your time, and I know Parker wants to get her dad back from Uncle E. So we talked earlier. I'm going to talk to that other guy about what we talked about, and I look forward to coming down and seeing you guys, man. I want to get in there and get a couple of rounds. You know, you're gonna get like a good 7 to 10 minutes out of me, and then I need a break. But
Come on, man. I moved my gym into a cleaner, nicer place, so come through. It'll be great, man.
absolutely, that's gonna happen, man. In the next couple of weeks, we'll get it set up, and I'll come down. And also, we have
That
to
would be
make
great, man. That would be great.
the next time you go to the Bahamas, it has to be while I'm at home. I make sure
We have to go together, man.
make sure you get the hookup. We're going out fishing. We're going deep sea fishing. We
I need some corn salad, man.
Definitely. And I'm gonna take you to one of the family islands. Like we're gonna go somewhere where
Sky juice.
that's exactly. We're
I
gonna
need
get
that.
lit and tow up off of Sky Juice and go to Mojito Kings in the fish fry. And yeah, I'm gonna take you to one of the islands where my family's from. That it's like about 3/4 of a mile by 7/8. We got 60 people there. and we're just gonna get a boat every day and go to a different beach. Go feed
Let's
the snake,
go.
feed the
I'm
turtle,
in.
feed the iguanas.
Sounds fun.
I'm in. I might not be fighting to the end of the year, so I got some time. Let's go.
That's the plan. Let's get it done.
My
Dustin,
man.
congrats on all the success and good stuff. Look forward to your next fight.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you for coming on, DP. Take
Later,
care.
dude.
Talk to you soon, brother.
Later, Squid. Later, man.
Peace. Always a fun guest to have on the show, Dustin the Diamond Poirier, man. Squid, I love that guy. That guy is one of my absolute favorites. Not even one of my absolute favorites. He is my absolute favorite. There's nobody in the sport who I am closer to, I have more love for, I have more respect for, and or I'm as proud of as.
He's turning into an all-time great. He's getting to that status. He's already had the interim belt once. He's got many more. He's only 31 years old.
No.
Future Hall of Famer right there.
Yeah, the only guy to beat him, like truly, outclass him in most aspects of the fight or most time in the fight was Khabib, and even then, like he was just looking for a way to make it happen, and he had a level of success in that fight, even in the rounds that he did lose. I think he won a round, lost two, and then was finished in the fourth.
Yeah,
But
Khabib's like that, like Fedor type of guy right now.
yeah,
Uh,
there's really no well, we haven't seen any answer.
yeah, and there's not a lot of people that when I look at the UFC lightweight rankings that could even touch him.
Yeah, I think I think I think Tony Ferguson was a puzzle that I was interested in seeing. Khabib on top, he's probably going to shut down a lot of that scramble, but like I wanted to see how that would play out.
He hit so hard.
Yeah, but Gaethje's really like the last. I think Gaethje's really the last guy who should be a concern. I do still think Tony's a puzzle, but I think Gaethje skill set wise has something that he can bring to the table, and you can make a good argument that he could be the guy to beat Khabib simply because of his wrestling background, be able to stop some of those takedowns. He's probably not going to stop all of them. He's probably not going to be able to get back to his feet all the time, but with his power and the difference in the skills and the striking, like he could slow Khabib down in 2 rounds, and that fourth round that Khabib usually takes off, he may not be able to do that because the third round he's hurting.
I think those leg kicks Khabib's got to worry about.
Yeah.
Leg kicks are. He took some. Khabib has been hit. Like I thought Iaquinta kind of cracked him a little bit, and I thought Iaquinta at that time was kind of at his peak. And if Iaquinta had some time to prepare for that fight, that becomes a different fight. But I think the guys that know how to strike and that can wrestle quite a bit are the guys that can solve the riddle.
Yeah, agreed. And
All-American wrestler, even though we haven't seen him wrestle, I did watch some of Gaethje's early fights in his career. He was taking he was picking guys up and slamming them and going for submissions and stuff. So he can do it if he needs.
And that's also a surprise weapon that he may use. I mean, he may turn it around. We haven't seen Gaethje take a shot probably since he became the champion of the World Series of Fighting, or just before that. But he may turn it around on Khabib. He may stuff a takedown and reshoot. He may get Khabib backing up and see an angle, hit a leg, put him on his butt for a second, hurt him in the scramble to get back to the feet. I mean, he has some options, and honestly, I like the idea of somebody going undefeated, somebody truly being undefeated in mixed martial arts. I think John Jones would have been that guy aside from the disqualification. But he was the bar. Now people are catching up to him. We see Dominic Reyes. I think like that fight may be different the next time around, but I also would like to see. So I like if Gaethje is to beat Khabib, like I look forward to that because that gives Dustin another opportunity. And again, Dustin, I'm sure he wants to rectify that loss to Khabib. I'm sure he wants retribution for that. So that could happen again down the road too. And he's the kind of guy to make the improvements that he needs to make, man. So I look forward. I look forward to seeing the next few years of Dustin's career, and I would love to see. I would like for me, man. That's my boy. I'd love to see him retire with holding on to that gold.
Yeah, I just hope the lightweight division is kind of funny when you have a long reigning champion like Khabib, and then you have a guy like Conor McGregor that can step in and slow the division down. And Khabib slows it down anyway because he has those few months of the year that he can't fight. So it's like the timing is so tough for this lightweight division. That's why I liked hearing Dustin say he would go up to welterweight and fight someone if he had to.
Yeah, well, the Nate Diaz fight, I think that looks so much like Masvidal and Nate Diaz. I'm not opposed to it, and I could be wrong. I mean, I've been wrong about fights before.
It's a money fight. It's a money fight.
Definitely a money fight, and I could see that. And Dustin, I don't think he loses a lot of strength or advantage to strength fighting at 170. He's done a lot of work with some of the best guys at 170. For a while, as a 145 pounder, he was, in the gym with Robbie consistently. He was one of Robbie, Dustin, and I, and then a few other southpaws were helping Robbie get ready for Johnny Hendricks. And Dustin never looked really outmatched in the strength department aside from the size difference. But technically, his technique was good enough for his strength to survive, and he's gotten a lot bigger since he was fighting at 145, bigger and stronger, better, and smarter as a fighter. So I look forward to seeing what he's able to do in the future. And if he moves up to 170, man, there's some guys that I'm not opposed to watching him fight Kamaru Usman at some point. Good burn.
I like the Gilbert Burns fight. I like
Woodley. I'm like I think he can compete with all those guys and beat some of those guys, if not all of them.
It makes for interesting matchups. It makes for very interesting matchups. Even Colby Covington, I know they're
absolutely. I've been in the gym and I've seen some of those.
Covington can really wrestle.
I'm sorry.
Covington can really wrestle.
He can really wrestle.
He resorts to it at the right time.
He's gonna have to, but
yeah. I think you'll see that.
But yeah, Dustin's been in there with those guys before, and I think he's comfortable in that matchup. Yeah, I don't see anybody in those two weight classes.
Yeah, just because I look at the options, I'm like, you're gonna have. I really think you'd have Gaethje and Khabib. They're gonna fight. Gaethje wins. Khabib definitely gets a rematch. Whoever wins that fight probably gonna get Conor McGregor, and then you have Dustin sitting there waiting.
And yeah, and that's the thing.
Maybe someone will get injured, or you don't hope for that to happen, but it does happen. So you do got to be ready. But yeah, the timing of these things can throw it off.
Dustin doesn't talk a lot, but like
Conor beats Khabib, and then
yeah, that's not happening.
That makes for a third one.
I don't see that happening. Like the wrestling advantage is too
crazier things. I saw him knock out Aldo. That's where I was like, the guy can do some things.
He's accurate. The
way he hit Eddie Alvarez that time.
Yeah.
I've only seen Muhammad Ali hit guys like that, where like the guy's like half out and the combos are still hitting. Like everything's hitting.
Conor's accurate, man.
So
he's great with range. He's probably one of the best at and with range in the UFC, if not in mixed martial arts. But
because I'd be curious of the adjustments he would make coming after that first fight. It's been so long.
It has been a while, and I mean, we don't necessarily see the improvements that Khabib makes because
it's the same guy.
So strong, But like, is that all he's focused on, or is he truly making improvements in the rest of his game?
I don't know.
We don't know. I don't know either. We got to go ask him.
Interesting. It makes for an interesting lightweight division. Definitely like the hardest belt to obtain. I think.
Yeah.
It seems like the furthest away. Maybe the women's flyweight division's like the other one. I think that's the other like really hard belt to get, and then maybe Amanda Nunes' belt too. There's a couple belts. So that's the only men's belt I think is like really, really hard to get.
John's gonna be hard to get too, though.
Yeah, but John's gonna put himself on the side though. I think it's like
Again.
there's so many people that are just waiting, just like, just come on, just fuck up one more time. Like Dominic Reyes and Thiago Santos are just sitting there. Come on, man. Fucking
Reyes probably just wants a rematch.
Reyes
What
wants a
the
rematch.
fuck up?
Thiago
Yeah.
Santos don't want a rematch. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think he enjoyed that fight. I don't think his kneecaps enjoyed that fight. Same with Anthony Smith. I don't think Anthony Smith wants that fight either.
Yeah. No, Anthony Smith, man, he's one of those guys who's like he's old school. You know, he came up the right way. He's going to improve, but
If
is he
John
going to
Jones leaves that division, 85 pounders come up, heavyweights come down. It becomes that weight class. It becomes that like it's available. It's
What do you think about Israel and John?
I think that makes for a good fight because I think John will do some stupid stuff he'll try to prove stuff. And I think he might get caught.
Yeah.
He wants to try to prove that he's the better striker, and I think he might get cracked.
Yeah, that's
I don't know if he's going to go for the takedown because if he gets he could work him on the ground, man. John's got an amazing top game. He hits chokes from the top. He don't mind ripping you shoulder strikes. But I worry with a guy like John, and John used to be one of my best friends, and he turned into like a maniac.
maniac.
Yeah, he turned into
Turned to Tim Sylvia.
a rich maniac.
Yeah. Well, it happens.
It
Sometimes.
happens. Yeah, when they put tons of money in your pockets, and yeah, you start. It happens. If I was world champion,
You'd be a maniac too.
the worst.
You'd be walking around like velour, everything. Head to toe.
Everything. Where's my velour socks? Ever see my velour wallet?
It's in your velour car.
Yeah. Oh, definitely velour car. Definitely velour car. Everything velour. I'd have one of those like hoverboards. That'd be velour.
In a
Everything.
velour house with a velour refrigerator,
Everything.
velour cereal boxes and shit.
Yeah, my toilet paper would just be sheets of velour. Yeah, there'd be one-time use. Yeah, don't throw them out. Don't put them in the toilet bowl. Make sure you throw them out. Yeah.
You gotta put them in this velour washing machine.
Exactly. Yeah.
I feel you.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's an interesting time. With all this COVID stuff, it's just an interesting time for that fights are still happening and divisions are still progressing, and yeah, we'll see how the rest of the year goes as this stuff might get worse again. So,
well, we got some good fights coming up, and next week on July 11th, and we got one of the co-headliners in the main event for our next guest. We got Gilbert Burns coming in to talk with us. We're gonna talk to him about facing a teammate. That's got to be tough. I mean, like I know you want it, so I'm sure. And I've spoken with him before a little bit, so he's resolved it within himself. But I would like to know I would like to know what he did to do that because like you've helped this man do everything he could do to get to that point, and now you want to take it away from him. And there's no animosity there. They both understand that, and I understand that also. But that's there's still got to be something in your mind, especially. I don't know what's the situation on Fight Island. Is that a situation where they're gonna have fans, or is it still gonna be similar to the Apex?
it looks similar from like there was a video I watched yesterday of like the setup and so forth.
Yep.
It's right on the water. They're doing it.
That's kind of dope. I'm gonna be distracting. But,
Yeah, they're right on the beach. They're right.
Nice. But
remind me of what was it like? I think it was like M1 that might have did that back in the day.
I know.
Masvidal fought on the beach.
Bodog
fight. Yeah.
Was there for that.
Yeah.
I would like to see how that goes. And I'm curious as to without a crowd, how that affects mentality. Like what Dustin said, it's like a sparring situation, right? So
the humidity like there, and I know they like create rain there and stuff. I'm like, what's it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they're so close to the water, there will be some humidity,
Yeah,
sure.
Gotta
So,
be.
but like with that sparring scenario, I mean, this is someone that you've sparred against, a lot. So is that going to play into the way you fight? Is that some of that psychologically gonna
Yes.
affect, your offense or your defense? Like,
They
'cause-
probably both think they have the secret.
yeah,
They both think they have the thing that they either held back on or the thing that they abused every time they sparred.
and only one of them can be right.
Exactly.
That's the thing. But like when we look at these guys came from two different backgrounds, jujitsu and wrestling, and but then we look at their one common opponent, and they hold a victory over him in a very similar way.
Dominant.
You know, dominant from
by
start to finish.
Yeah.
And they helped each other get prepared for that also. So
Interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I want to talk to him about all of that, and we will get to Monday afternoon. So
I mean, Monday on Thug Jitsu Master and Squid.
we're back, and we ain't going nowhere.
Oh no, where, baby.
The Jitsu Master and the Squid.
The Jitsu Master and the Squid.
The Jitsu Master
Get you right there, right? With the bass.
And the Squid.